Good evening. Welcome to Harmony House, regulars, and welcome to Harmony House, Zoomers, regulars, and anyone here for the first time. Anybody not here in the house on Zoom? Raise your hand. I can't see you, but I can feel your presence. Thank you for coming. So we have Brother Erik here again this evening, fresh from Madhuban, India, where he's had quite an extensive stay, the home of the Brahma Kumaris, the real house. And I just want to tell you that this is a new month. We began last week. And tonight, Brother Erik will be talking about a spiritual renaissance. And the flyer you may have read says, times of great change can bring great personal transformation. The world is changing, and we are also changing or being changed. Now, you don't need me to tell you that the world is not necessarily on the outside changing for the better, right? Can we all agree to that? Zoomers, I don't hear you. So I'd like you to think of a time. That's what I've been doing in preparation. Think of a time when something went terribly wrong in your life. I'll give you a minute, less than a minute. I spent a portion of this morning talking to a woman whose daughter is now 15, but she was born without sight in one eye, the daughter, as a baby, and tumors in the brain, some disease I didn't know the four-syllable name of, that were benign, but affected the brain, and she had become alcoholic. And it was through that alcoholism, through that searching and seeking for a way out of a very, very deep, sorrowful situation, painful situation, that she's become a very spiritual person. She's not in BK, by the way. She's just a regular guy. And she really does her meditations, and she is devout. So sometimes we're pushed. Now, that doesn't mean we have to, right? You don't have to have pain. In fact, the Brahmins are explicit in being very careful to be pure enough to rule out the sorrow. Don't get involved. Let it be something that you leave at the doorstep. And we are responsible for our inner happiness. But I think we can all admit that sometimes life just throws you a hard blow. And whether you're thrown off balance for 30 seconds or years, it's something to look at as it, for me, I've learned that for me, I spent way too much time in my youth, my younger years, trying to avoid painful situations and trying to protect my children from those learning experiences. And what I've come to decide for myself after decades and decades of exploration, I've really decided that everything in my life I would do all over again. And we believe you will. I will do it again. And I will stand here introducing people like Brother Erik, Sister Tina. Hello, Sister Tina. The senior Brahmins that I get to have breakfast with on Sundays and rub elbows with. And before COVID came along, I was exposed to international geniuses, and we can all see them on YouTube. And I just love what I'm doing here. And I would not be here if it hadn't been a push. I was pushed because I needed a push. We don't all need pushes. So I hope you all thought of something, and I hope you thought of some way that it gave you a personal renaissance. Anybody want to volunteer real quickly, or too personal? All right, we'll let it go, and we'll see what Brother Erik has in store for us. And you know, he's been studying Raj Yoga for over 40 years, and he hates when I read his bio, but just another reminder that everyone you see speaking with you has led professional lives or normal lives out there with the public. We're not gurus in caves, you know. He's wonderful at being a teacher. I can attest to that, a facilitator. And he's the representative at the UN. and on the board of directors of the Long Island Multi-Faith Forum. And before his retirement, he served as a civil engineer in property loss management. Okay, so Brother Erik, are you ready to come on up? Take the microphone, and the evening is yours. Thank you.
Shanti, and good evening. I'm back from India, and I think I've got a little cough, so I've got a lozenge in my mouth, and I'm hoping I can speak clearly and succinctly and sufficiently so that you will be able to hear without too much difficulty. But wanted to let you know that the video that you saw was chosen for tonight specifically. I don't know if anybody recognized the landscape, the city. It was Florence. Has anybody been to Florence, Italy? Yes? It's a lovely city. Amazing. And the reason I chose that is because that was one of the beginning places for the Renaissance, as we would know it. And the Renaissance, spiritual Renaissance is the topic tonight. But the Renaissance was a time when they rediscovered old ideas. They found what had been hidden, and they started to bring about kind of a new creation, a new creativity. There was lots of artists, and it was kind of a blossoming or a rediscovery of what was there, kind of the end of the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages. I believe it was at the end of the Great Death, the bubonic plague. And so it was coming out of that fascinating history. A variety of things took place there. And Florence is one of the key cities of that. And why the topic tonight is of interest to me, and I hope it is to all of you, is that I believe that we are going through a renaissance, a rediscovery, a kind of coming back to things that we forgot. And in that process, I'm going to kind of position that on what I have relearned, my little resonance, not resonance. Can't even think of the word now. But in that sense, what might have been in our intellects, in our awareness, that somehow we forgot is coming out at this time. And I believe that there is a huge transformation taking place within individuals and within the world. And coming out of horrible times, the Renaissance, there was this sense of freshness, a newness, an understanding, and energy. And the ideas that were profound were being rediscovered and shared again. In my Renaissance in the past number of years, I see it's the same process, rediscovering something that I forgot. And one of the main things was here, the Brahma Kumaris. And what I had learned growing up, I'm never sure what I was taught, but what I learned was that I needed to behave in my life. I needed to follow the rules and the commandments and the principles that the different teachings had for me. And if I followed all those and behaved well, what I learned was that this something that I was responsible for, the soul, would then go to heaven. And if I misbehaved in my life and did things that were unacceptable according to the teachings of the tradition that I grew up with, then that thing that I was responsible for would not go to heaven, would go somewhere else. And so that was a lot of pressure. I had to behave because something else was going to have the consequences of that. That's what I learned. That's what I was to understand. And that was fine. That made sense. That was a guiding principles that seemed to help me make wise decisions that I shouldn't do this, shouldn't kill anybody. Okay. Never really had the desire or the means to do that. But it was probably a good thing that I didn't kill anybody or some of those other things. And what I learned was different than that. And it really changed my life. It totally changed how I looked at things. It changed this kind of rediscovery of how I could view the world and how I was going to interact within the world. And that was one of the lessons here. And it was just very interesting, simple, amazing, because it was just a little flip. And the renaissance, the rediscovery, the kind of newness that was discovered for me was that the terminology was wrong. Both of those elements were there. I was something and there was this other thing, soul. And it was kind of like it was hovering over me. You know, I had to be careful and watch out, however that was going to be, however I imagined it. So there was this me, body type thing, and there was this other spiritual element, soul. And I had to watch what I did because that soul was going to go where it goes based on what I did in my life. But that rediscovery of a different way of looking at things, or the rediscovery of the knowledge that was there and bringing that out, I found that that wasn't quite the case. It wasn't true. What was true is that there were both of those elements, but I was identifying with the wrong thing. That I was identifying with the actions and the physical world. I was identifying with this matter. And that that other spiritual entity was something separate from myself. But just that little flip of saying, wait a minute, I'm the one who's the thinker. I'm the one who is conscient. I'm the one who is experiencing things, and I'm the one who is experiencing those transcendent qualities, peace, love, happiness, joy. And it's not the physical. And so that sense of let me change my perception of I am somebody who has a soul into I am actually that spiritual being. And that there isn't something separate from me, but it is me. I'm the one who goes on based on my actions. I'm the one who re-experiences a heaven or hell or however that's going to be. That's me. And so that rediscovery, that feeling of finding a universal truth is at this time. It is now at this time where these truths are coming back out. And I see it very much that the more we understand who we are, the more we understand what our qualities are, the more that we can align ourselves with what is true. Because I don't have a soul. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that there is soul, and that is me. That I am the one who is experiencing the world through the senses, through the body. And that discovery, that understanding was a huge transformation, life changing. And so finding lost books that contained ancient wisdom uh, in Florence very much is the experience I feel I'm having in my life at this time. Rediscovering ancient truths that help me understand what's going on in the world at this time and in myself, and how I can use that awareness and that knowledge for my benefit. The world's changing, and I want to be on the kind of the positive side of that change. There was another couple more, maybe two or three or four other kind of rediscoveries of this spiritual renaissance, that sense of rediscovering what we had lost and being able to use the energy of that discovery in our lives creatively. What happened then, 16th century, 16th, 17th century, what's happening now, very much similar in my mind. Because when I had that awareness of, hey, I'm not someone who has a soul, but I am a spiritual being. I am the soul. I'm this energy. I am this consciousness. I'm this awareness. There was another principle that I was taught or I had learned, and that was that there was someone like me. There was someone like us who was all powerful and had all those qualities and was given the name of God. It's a pretty good name, pretty good position. And in that understanding, what I had learned, never sure what I was taught, but what I learned was that there was a God, but we couldn't know him. Don't ask about that. It's beyond our comprehension. All right. He can help us, we can pray, we can do a variety of things. But he's beyond our comprehension. And that works fine. I mean, if people tell you you can't know something here and you don't bother with that, then kind of fits easily into your life. But then I realized that there was a principle within the tradition I grew up with, and it was that God creates us in his own image. And that's why oftentimes we see old men on clouds, because we identify with that human form. And can't know that that's as good as anything. But the other element that came out of that was that if God created me in his own form, and there's a principle in math, 1 + 2 = 2 + 1, however you put those together. So if God creates me in his own image, and I'm a soul, and I'm a spiritual being, I'm a point of light, I'm this eternal conscience being, that's the form of God. And so that understanding is that because I know myself, I now know that I am distinct, unique, special, as we all are. And because there is this connection or this understanding of I am a soul and there is another soul who has greater powers, it's that means I can have a relationship. That means that I can actually have that rediscovery of what it's like to know myself and to know that there's someone else like me, not identical, but congruent. Someone who is like me, that because there's two and they're separate and distinct, we can have a relationship. And I find that quite fascinating, that it is not this unknown concept. It is not a fuzziness and unknowing. But if I'm a spiritual being, if I have a soul, if my nature is peace and love, then I know who that soul is also. I know his qualities. And I know what we share. So I know that we can build a relationship on those qualities. I use the term congruent rather than equal. And you all know what congruency is. Congruent situation is if you order a 6-inch pizza, it has cheese, it probably has tomato sauce, it might have some olives on it. Okay. It's a 6-inch pizza. But if we're all going to get one and we get a 10-inch pizza, still has the cheese, it still has the sauce, still has the crispy crust, but it's bigger, it's different. They're congruent. They're not equal, but they have the same characteristics. And so I have the same characteristics of God. And he has the same characteristics as I do. More so he does. But in that sense, that rediscovery, that new knowledge, that awareness is life transforming. And we're going through a time where lives are being transformed. Who am I? What's my life about? Who else is in the world, the universe, that might be able to offer us some strength, power, clarity? And so kind of continued on with that discovery. Who am I? I am not someone who has a soul, but I am that soul. I'm that spiritual being. And drilling down into some of those things, we've got, interacting. One of the things that I find fascinating is the knowledge that the movies have sometimes. and how they might tap into a truth, whether they know it or not. And the truth that pops into my mind is, oh, I don't remember the word, but um, there's people, and they've got a little group of um, individuals inside the head that control that individual. It was an animated film. What's it called? That was one. There was another one though. Uh, yeah, they had different motions. One was anger and things like this, but it's something inside of us is controlling the body, and so the truth that they tap into is that's very correct. It's not little people inside of us who are controlling the big people, but it's actually consciousness, awareness, thought, and we're the thinkers. And so that concept of I am interacting through thought with this instrument of the body, it's quite fascinating. This is who I am. This is how I work. This is how the universe is set. And this is what I forgot. And a lot of us forgot that. We identify with soul, we have these things, but we really didn't know. And now that knowledge is being rediscovered and changing lives, it is a renaissance. It is bringing new awareness into the world, and the world is changing because of that. Another little element that kind of follows with that, that comes into play, is that, well, if I am here now, if I am this conscious being inside this physical body, that there was a time when this body wasn't around. And there's going to be a time when this body isn't around anymore either. So what happens? Where'd I go? Where am I from? And that was answered in a discovery, an awareness of the knowledge that I am here. This is a place to live and interact. But there's another place also. And oftentimes you'll hear individuals at funerals, say, oh, that life. Now they're in a better place. Have you ever heard that? Now they're with grandma. Now they're something. So there's this sense that we share with each other that there's something beyond. And whether that's hopeful ideas being shared to comfort us, or if it's based on a true understanding, there must be a place that we have experienced or that we remember. And for me, that third aspect, if I'm a spiritual being, I'm a soul, if there's another soul, we've probably spent some time together in another realm, another place. And if you want to call it heaven, if you want to, my favorite is nirvana. I like that concept. Nirvana, beyond sound, world beyond sound. And the easiest way to think of it is that there is a place that is my original true home. Some would call it heaven, some would call it nirvana, some would call it Paramdam. There's lots of names in many traditions that give a sense of more than what's here in the physical plane. And when we start to have that awareness that I am here temporarily, And I have a place that I remember, that I can tap into and bring that experience into my awareness. And there's a fullness that comes with that. There's a home, spiritual home, God's home, my home, beyond the physical soul world. However, that might work itself out. And actually, one of the reasons that we like to meditate in this room, because we can focus on the picture behind it. It's very powerful. It covers all three of those elements, because we can look, and maybe you can zoom out if you're still there, right? Uh, because it's got that point of light. And so it's a mirror. That's who we are. Point of light, energy, qualities radiating out of that. We can see ourselves. We actually can hold on to that awareness that I'm looking at myself. I am the soul. And when I have that idea and that word and that picture, those qualities start to reemerge. And we can transform the same picture, it's right there, and see that's not only a picture of me, but that's a picture of the Supreme Soul. And so I can have my conversation, I can have a relationship, I can sit quietly and let the vibrations of God just come into me. Same picture, point of light. We can reinterpret that. What do I do when I come here and sit in meditation? I allow God's energy to kind of just waft over me. I think about it. And I can also see that same picture, this picture, as a soul in the soul world. And I can take my thinking myself beyond to my home, to that place. And that sense of what I originally knew and what I know deep inside. That I carry that truth of a place, peace, love, harmony. That's our truth. Now we've got it all confused, forgot who we are. We're not able to always remember these things consciously, but at the same time, we have this awareness that let me see what's inside of me. Because one of the things that has been mentioned in the world now is that just about everybody is dissatisfied. Just about everybody knows things could be better, knows things should be different, knows there was a time in their life, consciously or unconsciously, when what they're looking for was more available. And if you start to kind of tease that out, every human being is spiritual being. Every human being has had that experience of peace and love in the soul world. And every human being is trying to get back to those qualities. Now, they're trying to do it on a physical level. If my world was like this, I'll be happy. If my world didn't include you, I'd be happy. If everybody did what I said, I'd be happy. We're trying to organize physical world in a way that would bring them spiritual happiness. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way at all. The outside isn't the master of the inside. And one of the things about a spiritual renaissance is that if we start to bring our spiritual life as a priority first, everything else fits in. And oftentimes it's the opposite. Everybody's too busy to practice being peaceful. Everybody has something else so that they can't re-experience their true love. There's all sorts of reasons and excuses, busy with this, have to do this, want to achieve this. All of that stuff is going on in the world, maybe in your lives. And therefore, we're keeping ourselves away from our own truth. But once we start to say, well, wait a minute, if I want more of those qualities that are natural, intrinsic, I have to nurture them. I have to focus on spending some time so that I can be happy and bring happiness into my activities rather than hoping that all my activities will somehow create happiness. If I focus in, and I'm just using happiness, could be peace or anything, but if I focus in on those and practice those and develop that, then I'll be able to use that and I will have that and I will be that all the time. And that's a huge transformation. And it's not what I do that is going to bring me peace, happiness, but it's how I am. And if I can connect to my original qualities, then I will always have that. I will always be happy. I will always be peaceful. I will always be loving. And so whatever I do, it's going to be secondary. Most of the world has it backwards. Most of us are not aware, general, maybe not in this group, of what it is that we are. And so we're running around crazy. A lot of crazy people. A lot of people can't sort it out. A lot of individuals know something is wrong. But they don't know what it is. They don't know how to solve it. They don't even know what the problem is. And so we have a chance to recognize this new information that's been coming out for many years now. It came to me through the Brahma Kumaris. But this knowledge of who we are and this knowledge of who else is in our lives and this knowledge of actually the time we're at. This is a renaissance. It is a rediscovery of lost truth, knowledge, and that will transform our lives and that will transform the world. And all of us here and here have that awareness and that chance to be those instruments to help others. Because most souls don't know who they are. Most souls are lost. And so I think that's why we come together to have a conversation. Who am I? What are we doing? How can we make that better? And so when we come in here for meditation, see yourself, point of light, powerful. See God. He's looking at you. He's giving you what he needs. And see yourself in that place and re-experience what it is that might have been lost for a long time. going to pause there and see if there's comments or questions either here or on Zoom, if that's okay.
Can unmute? Is that possible? I don't have any yet.
Nothing there. So if anybody is on the Zoom that would want to comment or question, or anybody in the hall, I'll save a little time for that. So what did you hear? Do you feel that you are in a special time where the knowledge that you're involved with is making your lives transformed? Are you living in a renaissance? Anybody?
Thank you, Brother Erik. One thing that I had read this week, I'm sure some of the others who are on Zoom or in the room read, which I had heard once before, but I can't see it enough because I forget. But everything that you see is not real. Anything you see with your eyes is not real. And that always hits me. They're right, because everything that I see with my eyes is temporary. That I'm not, even if I look at myself in the mirror, it's temporary. It's meaning the physical. And that always really ties in, I think, to what you're saying, that really when you see the spirit and the soul as opposed to the physical matter, that's real. But it makes sense for me. I can only speak for myself for a little while, and then I forget and I slip back into the physical world because I have a lot of tasks and I'm busy. And then I hear it again this week and I'm like, oh, right. So I wonder if you can comment on that in terms of, maybe to help me ease me into incorporating that what I see with my physical being is not necessarily what it appears to be, or is. Is that a fair question?
Any question seems to be fair. If I am understanding, things that we see with the eyes can be considered to be unreal because they're transitory. Okay, and anything that changes kind of fits into that category of not being real. Now you see it, now you don't. However, to think that we're living in a world that everything is false is a tough life to lead. There's material things, there's science things, there's ways that we can organize it. But that sense of everything changes. And so the world is changing. To recognize that helps me in that awareness of not to get too attached to anything, not to have too many expectations of anything, and allow things, whatever they are at this time, to be what they are. And if they change, then accept that also. But it is it's kind of a funny thing to say that what I'm looking at now, all of you are false. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But it is that you are not going to be here in another 20 minutes. And so it's going to change. And so this moment is going to move into another one. And so are they real? Do they exist? Interesting questions.
I'm inviting Judy.
Thank you so much. Two thoughts occur to me. One is I've heard it expressed that there's, if you will, two realities. One is a conventional reality, and that might be what we see, but the other is an ultimate reality. So there is a law of impermanence, and everything that we see conventionally is changing and is, I guess, dissolving or changing every moment. And the ultimate reality would be the supreme soul, if you will. Soul world, whatever, and that is imperishable. So that would be one thought. And that's all that occurs to me right now. I'd like to share that. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Zoomers, just unmute and scream at us. Meanwhile, anyone in house? Okay, as a student here for a few years, I can honestly say that the thing that most impressed me was the method. How do I do this? Especially when I started 8 years ago here, the world was not in this kind of shape. It was just beginning to change. How do we do it? How do we begin? Just begin. Take a small step, not a giant leap, into this new world of not being totally consumed by what's going on the outside, but bringing peace to myself, reacquainting myself with who I really am. It's not that I have a soul, I am a soul, as Brother Erik explained. Did you want to comment on that? You have an idea where to start? You.
Spending a lot of time every day in deep silence. And that's brought transformation into my life. And then trying to stay in that place and carry it throughout the day. Staying inward. And I am still practicing how to stay in that inner space, which I have come to know through being in deep silence, in meditation. And that's been helping me to recognize what that feels like and be in that space as I'm going about my daily activities. And what to explain?
You're really, I think, if I'm hearing you right, you're creating the foundation for what we are talking about. You know, it's like building a house. You need to have a foundation. And it sounds like you've built a very strong foundation, Ms. Soul. Yeah. Did you want to comment on method at all for us? How do we begin this journey that you've articulated so beautifully?
The principles take us into an awareness and I guess a study and a discovery. You know, if there's some, okay, so I'm soul, then continuing questions and kind of mining the experiences of that. And maybe we'll do that now. Rather than answer the question, we'll experience the question. So if there's that sense of soul, then a question comes, well, what is the soul? And how does it look? And so see a point of light and see if you can bring that point of light inside of you. And just pull that point of light towards you and you let it rest on your forehead. And then now go inside and realize that that's who you are and that's where you are. With that idea and concept, see if you can make that into an experience. I am the soul. I reside inside behind the forehead. My nature is of peace. Let me see the word peace. Let me understand what that word means. And let me bring that awareness of being peaceful into my awareness now. I am a being whose nature is peace. See yourself that way. Hold on to that thought and experience the power of that thought. I am a peaceful soul. When we have that awareness, when we have that thought, that quality starts to emerge inside of us. It's as if we're giving permission for ourself to come back into our own awareness. Start to allow ourselves to reveal our true nature. We see it and we feel it. We feel comfortable to be. So let us all be soul conscious.
Now, you slipped in that little meditation, didn't you, Brother
There
Erik?
you go.
There you go. This is just magnificent. The thing, yes, did you want to say something else? I was just going to add that the thing that I know personally is that when I am with someone else who needs to feel my peace, I don't need words all the time. In fact, sometimes there's a vibrational energy that Brother Erik's been talking about all night, where they can sense my calm, and it gets to be contagious. So we don't have to have eloquence with our mouths. Yeah, Judy.
Thank you so much for the entire conversation and the wonderful, wonderful question about how do we begin. I've been practicing imperfectly for a good while, and certainly I forget regularly on a regular basis, I'm afraid. But I do remember again, and in terms of how to begin, one thought that I do recall is just to start noticing how things change all the time in terms of our physical, what our eyes see, our physical reality, and notice that the end of meeting is always parting. We will be leaving here shortly. We're meeting right now, but we will be leaving. The end of meeting is regularly parting. And, just the way of nature, the emergence and then the decline, if you will, on the laws of nature. So in terms of that, regarding the perishable nature of what our eyes see and what I call conventional reality. The other is, I was in a seminar, I guess, where the conversation was to go within and get a sense of the benefit natural to you that you bring with you when you are at your highest nature, if you will, or at peace. And it could be different for everyone. It was so challenging. People, when they heard the word benefit or blessing was the word. What is the blessing you bring with you? Which could be peace or some other quality, good quality. People, when they heard the word blessing, they thought my family, my children, my home, my car. It was very difficult for people to really get in touch with what is their essential highest nature that they are clear about, at least at this time, if not peace, something positive that they bring with them, which is a vibration that others may enjoy and receive, knowingly or not. And so those are just some of the thoughts that are occurring to me as you're chatting about where to start. Just look at how things change all the time regarding our physical reality, and going within increasingly in terms of seeing, well, what is my highest nature? Sometimes, what is it called? Your best angels, or, we have different conventional phrases that become popular from time to time, going in and finding your peace. And our challenge to stay peaceful when things around us are not so peaceful is quite an interesting journey. So thank you so much.
I find that it's amazing how when I take my ego, and to me, the ego is a dirty word, honestly, because it wants to protect me from many things, and it would rather be angry than feel pain or fear. This is my secret. This is what I've learned. And that helps me a lot. So the minute I don't fight back, if someone is really upset and agitated, I find if I don't fight back, they may get angry because they want to fight. But I don't care. I have to think about me and guarding my peace with my life. So there's a method that I've learned to do. That's just one little one. Did you want to do a meditation? I think you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we do have a few. I know you're not feeling well. Would anyone like to say anything else?
Maybe just announcements.
Just announcements? Okay. I'll speak slowly. Okay. Next week, guess who else is back from India? We have a flow of new energy is the topic, and it's Sister Anjani who will be with us next week. And the week after that is Sister Tina with Ascending Spirituality. So it's a very spiritual month for us. Okay, and we have a brand new course starting next week in English, Raj Yoga Meditation, and it's going to be Zoom only. And it's going to be from 5:15 to 6:15 every night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So consider it your spiritual dinner. Okay? Dinner can wait or eat early. And just turn on your Zoom. It won't be in person. Am I correct? Just online. You can be in your pajamas. You can do whatever you want. And just, if you're interested in either retaking or taking the course, of course, it's free of charge. Okay. And I think that's about it, right? Okay. Good. So would you like to enter?
It's fine. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you here soon again.
And thank you, Brother Aaron.
And may you be living in Renaissance time.
Yes, we will live in it. Now you have tools, right? Thank you. Feel better. And next month, we hope to see you
Good.
happy. But you did amazingly well for a guy who's not feeling well, right? Okay. It's amazing how they ignore the body around here. That's the secret. Shanti, everyone. Zoomers, take good care. Have a very soulful week, everybody. Shanti. And there's, of course, Toli and Blessing if you came in person. Not for you guys. Come on down. Shanti.